Alright guys, so this is the part 2 of the podcast between me and Zox. If you like the first part, and if you haven't watched it, go over to Zox's channel, check that one out, and then come back to this one. But without further ado, let's continue on with the podcast.
Yeah, man. So guys, we're jumping right in with this next part where I really want to start honing in a little bit more into PvP, man. The thing that Sterbby specializes in the most. And I'm actually really excited about this part because the competition, man. I want to talk about that. Like, how did you feel going up the ladder? Like the competition, did you feel like there were variations in like the structure of different comps you were coming up against, or did you feel like everybody was just kind of playing into this one hard set in stone, like, you know, play style or meta?
So when I first entered the RTA scene, right, I read the rules. It's pretty much what E7 is right now, where you have a pre-ban and then you have your third pick, you know, being safe. And I was like, okay, cool, let's go in. Caught my first match, didn't see a pre-ban. And I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Wait, what? And then the third pick was not safe. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Maybe this is just for the beta, because no one's going to have a massive roster to begin with. And if you put pre-bans in, it's going to be really hard to climb. And so I started playing the game, and then I realized that the entire meta during the first week of RTA was just Marvel Kraken. It was just Marvel Kraken, and it was just a matter of who outsped who wins the game. And I don't have the best of speed gears. I couldn't roll speed to save my life, and I forgo, you know, shells for the longest time. And I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble, man. Right? Because I didn't build any SR units. So I didn't build Grape, I didn't build Sanya, I didn't build, you know, Dinah, I didn't build any of that stuff. I just worried about my Heinrich, my Hellkit, my Messiah, you know, my Doki, Freya, and I was like, sick. I would take 5 SSR and whoop your ass. And I was like, that's not happening. That's not happening. So I started building up all my units. And because I didn't have a healer, I didn't have a dedicated, you know, what do you call that? Like anything with immunity. It was just a matter of who went first, who won kind of deal, right? Because if Marvel went and put rest down on you, Kraken was just going to freeze your entire team and you're just never moving. Right? That was the entire meta. Okay? And then coupled with the fact that I couldn't pull Lily to save my life, so I couldn't speed contest or, you know, have a speed threat there. And they already took Marvel. So I had only Freya left. And I was like, okay, shit. I need to rethink my strategy. Maybe I don't play RTA yet. Maybe I farm up some gears, right? And farm up some shells and then go from there. So I started farming shell. I went real ham on shells, and I got myself the Nico Nana, and I was like, I am clearing this Nico hook or by crook because I need the speed. Because I saw epic or mythic shells on it, and I was like, I need the speed. I need the speed. So I just started spamming 2 days worth of, you know, just Nico Nana. That's it. That's all I did, just Nico, right? And eventually I got there, and then I also at the same time on the reset I pulled Tsukiyomi, and I was like, okay, nice. Okay. Now I have another contester. So now I have Marvel, I have Freya, I have Tsukiyomi. Now I have at least, you know, if they take Marvel, I don't have to just pick Freya, because if people went Marvel Freya, I was done. I was cooked. Right. So going in after that, I had Tsukiyomi, so I was like, okay, so now I can actually play a bit more aggressive, because I didn't build any of the any healers. I didn't have Sanya built at the time. Right? Because I didn't worry about Terramaton, so I didn't have any Wellspring or any Pure Set. Right? I had speed. And I was like, my Sanya is not going to heal for anything because her heal is based off her max HP. So I just started playing a bit more aggressive. So knowing that, I started, you know, building up my speed just a little bit. And most of my speed, and that's where I realized that speed came from shells. Because my speed started to skyrocket really, really fast when I started getting good shells. When I started getting my shells up to like 30 speed, 32 speed, and I was like, okay, now my speed set's doing something to my multipliers here. Okay? And then that's when I started being able to compete in speed. After a while, I realized, okay, I'm not supposed to put all my speed set on Marvel, because Marvel is a target ban every single time. So I switched that gear over to Tsukiyomi. So what I tend to do back then was I will first pick Marvel, and then I will pick Tsukiyomi in the middle, because not many people have Tsukiyomi. and then they'll ban Marvel, and then my Tsukiyomi will go first with Messiah, and then I'll just nuke them, right?
And turn me to push city, man.
Yeah. So I just started doing that, and then I hit a roadblock where I started seeing, my Messiah was just not fast enough to cut a Freya, because my Tsukiyomi will go, but because of that extra push, it just wasn't enough because my Messiah was way too slow. So I started putting a bit more speed onto him. So that was also another bit of a grind to get there, because I had to balance out the damage with the crit rate, with the crit damage, with the shell, right? And finding the proper shell to, make sure Messiah actually does his thing, right? Because I don't play to having Gray in my team. I play to him being sufficient enough to crit on his own. So if you watch my video that I created on when I made the account, I put my Messiah at about 84 crit, 85 crit, with about 230 crit damage, so that he was sufficient to survive by himself, right? Because I was playing for the game where my entire team's going to die, and my Messiah is the only one alive because of invulnerability. So that was how I was playing, right? Until the last few days when my account really boosted, when I started clearing Sharon, I started clearing Hoyan, and then I started clearing Hell 4 of Doki and the double drops. That's when my account really spiked, and then I realized that the game was going more and more into tank, because Linglo was in the game now. And everyone was going, Tiamat, Linglo, Sanya, and I was like, this is bullshit. This is kind of fucked. I can control you all day, but that Sanya with a gigabyte is just gonna cut and ruin my day here, right?
Yeah.
And so I started playing a bit more tanky, because I already started building those units in the background while I was still playing for ranks. And then once I hit a certain threshold on the rank, I realized that, not many people are really pushing here anymore. Because when I got to the plat rank, not many people wanted to push, or they were pretty reluctant to push because they didn't want to lose their points. Because at that point, I was taking about 2-3 minutes to get pairings. Because the ELO was really high, so I was only playing with the people up the top who were trying to push even higher. And it was only those people who were actually, really confident in their gear and they knew what they were doing that were playing. So I started, having trouble finding players, right? So I started, looking for time slots to play. And when I saw that someone was playing, I made sure I beat the guy, because I know the mentality of a player playing RTA. They will rage queue because they can't stand losing. And then I will pair into them with them, and then I can farm them.
Okay.
I started jamming. I started jamming games the second I found someone, and I made sure I beat them on the first round, because I knew that they will rage queue for at least 2 to 3 games, and that would be easily net 60 points for me.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it started becoming a math game, right? Because when you get to the last hour or the last day, it's a matter of how fast can the ladder push in terms of points, and what will be the threshold to the top 16 at that point. So I started paying attention to that when there was only 1 day left in the RTA, and I realized that 28-11 was where it was going to be hovering about. Okay, so I realized that if I get myself, at least 2 games above that, all I had to do was just sit there and wait for someone in the top 16 to get knocked to 17, so that they will try to play and go up, and then they will slowly try to creep me down, and that would take them, if they're lucky, 2 games, if they're unlucky, 10 games. And based on the math of people playing at that time, that's not a lot of people playing, it's not good. I was pretty safe, so I made sure I got myself to rank 9. So I was top 9 for the longest time, and I just held my position. I just refused to play. I was like, there is no reason to play, because if I lose, I will be in that spot that I just calculated. Right?
So dude, you took it a whole, but this is the thing I love about games like this that are pushing more for the RTA or the esports, is it's the psychology behind it. There's the math portion, but there's really more importantly the psychology aspect that you are already aware of. Okay, I'm taking advantage of the fact I know he's gonna rage into another fight, rage queuing, and then even understanding that if I put myself in this position, it gives me this probability to where I'm not just going to drop out of, that top slotting, like it would have to be something crazy in terms of like, I would say spiking like somebody winning or losing for you to really shift or see a crazy shift. Otherwise you were like pretty safe. So that's just insane strategy anyway. And this is the mentality that you have in the beta, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, because this entire mentality
part.
came from E7 in my guild, right?
Yeah.
And what we used to do was we had people in my guild. I'm not even lying to you, all right? In E7, we had people in the guild that would calculate the rate of progression that was for top 100. So how fast were we getting to the threshold of top 100? So top 100 at that time was like, for example, in this game, if you get to 3100, you're in Mythic. All right, we know that is the top 100, right? That means if you want to be top 100 in Mythic, it has to be 3100 up. Yeah, and because it has to be 3100 up, how fast does 3102, 104, 106 become the benchmark of top 100?
Yeah.
Because if so we need to see the progression, the rate of progression over time, how quickly it's escalating. And people were making charts in my server showing, all right, so this is the progression right now. If the progression stays like this in this linear graph, by this time when the game ends, it will be at about this point, which is going to be the top 100 cutoff.
And see, you know why that's crazy though, is because that actually almost gives you somewhat of an idea of, like you mentioned, like how many games, like how many points you need to accumulate per game as well. Like, so it's like that like knowing that type of knowledge as well, kind of, it's like literally like what we learn in like marketing and stuff like that, and just like kind of putting yourself ahead of the curve. And it's like and like really trying to make sure if you're not looking at those charts properly, you're not going to be able to really gauge where things are going to go. And so like even knowing that, it's like, okay, I know at this point I need to be, or even this time of day, I need to be more active playing, because this is going to potentially give me X amount of points per day or per week or whatever it might be. Like that's just like, and that's what I mean by like, I feel like a lot of casuals just are never really like, they're never think that in depth,
Yeah, like if you're a casual and you just want to play RTA for the sake of getting a skin, get the platinum. That's so easy. Like getting the platinum, trust me, getting the platinum in the full launch is going to be very, very, very easy. Okay, because you start at gold already. All right after placement. So you start at gold, you go to plat, and you got your skin. Get your skin, you can leave. Okay, this is not for you. This is for the people who want to chase the top 100 Mythic, right? That's where you're really chasing, and that's why I say it's going to be super, super, super sweaty in the global launch to get top 16, because the threshold to get top 16 there is going to be way harder than what you can do in global server. I mean, in the beta right now. So I decided I don't want to do. I'm going to push for top 100, of course, but pushing for top 16 means I have to be playing. I have to be either number one, I stay really high up in the ladder, right, in terms of points, so that when the ladder creeps up, it still keeps me within the top 16 spot, or I play last day and I play 24 hours. So that I get there.
Yep.
Right? It's one of the two.
Like, oh man,
it's one of the two, because I've tried both strategies in E7 before, where I used to climb. Just last 2 weeks I started climbing, and then the last day is just the last push for top 100, and you just push non-stop the whole day. You're just sitting on the screen playing 24 hours to push, because it's not easy to push. You think that if you grind 24 hours, you're going to get there. That's not the case, because you gain 20 points, you also lose 20 points. So if you lose, so if you win the game, you lose 2. You're 2 games behind the net positive to just net, right?
And it's definitely a lot of rubber banding.
Yeah, and that's where you can play the whole day, and you cannot even get rank 1, because if you are just losing and winning and you're yo-yoing up and down the leaderboard, you're going nowhere. Right, so it's a matter of how much points can you net in a day, right? So back then in E7, what we used to do, a lot of those streamers, they like to say, all right, so we're going to do a 2,700 rank push. right? So 2,800 points push, 2.8k points push, 2.9k push. So that means from 2,800 to 2,900, that is 100 points, which is about 8 games, right? In E7, that's about 8 games. So they want to try to push the 8 games, but they can sit there for 6 hours trying to get there because they'll win 1, win 2, lose 1, and then they have lost 2 games in that one game, and they're like, shit, now I gotta climb back 2 more games to get back there again. And they just sit there forever.
And then, you could get hit with another 2 games, so now you're down.
Yeah, dude.
4.
Like
it's not hard.
It is very rough. So I started doing the math, right? I was like, okay, if I know that I win 20 points, I lose 20 points if the guy is, about my rank. I just need to beat him 3 times in a rage quit and in a rage queue, and I get 60 points from there. And that will put me, 2 games ahead of what I was back then yesterday. And that is more than enough. Then I'll just have to wait again, right? And I just started calculating, the ranks, because I have to counter draft, number 1. Because my gears are all over the place. My levels were all over the shop. Like I have a level 21 Tsukiyomi, I have a level 24 Rahu, a level 43 Hellkit. Like my stats is already not there to begin with. Coupled with the fact that, I've messed up big time, spending all my stamina on the wrong things and my resources on the wrong stuff. I had to, really play the math in that sense, right? And I never go this in depth. I'm more like, play the game, win a bunch, that's it. That's what I did with this. Yeah. Because this was that easy. Okay?
Yeah.
Right? E7, I just did a whole different strategy where I would just, farm, and then the last 2 weeks, let the meta figure out itself, build those units, and go in and play. Right? But in this game, because I only had 10 days, 9 days of PvP, I had to really, really focus on, very, very niche things and how I want to play. So I made sure that my roster was wide and not tall. Because
Ooh, okay, what do you mean by that? Explain that for somebody watching, because they might not understand that.
So a wide roster means that if you have a roster of I had a roster of 12 units built to be in to go into RTA, right? But some people will go with a roster of 7, but well built units. Mine were all suboptimally built. Yeah. Right? But they all were built. That is the most important thing. They were built. So if I can counter draft you well enough and I can steal units you use, I technically win. Because you are forced to draft units you did not build. And then I ban the units I know you've built. And then now you're playing with a unit that's either ungeared, under level, or under level on your shelf. Right? So I purposely went wide and not tall, because if I had a wider roster, I had more choices to choose. Like for example, I can go, if let's say I'm going second and I have, the first 2 picks, I can go Tiamat Sanya, right? Now that's a combo you got to deal with, right? Then they can counter you with 2-3, and then I go Messiah Tsukiyomi. Now you got to deal with either the Tiamat Sanya or you're going to deal with the Messiah Tsukiyomi, right? And then I just pick a niche pick like Hellkit, right? To give them all barrier. So it's like something that, gels the entire either combos together. And then now you have to deal with a combo here. Right? So if my roster was tall, I couldn't do that because I wouldn't have the roster to do it. Right?
Yeah. And so it's further emphasizing diversity. At that point.
To emphasize that diversity, right? So that's what I was doing a lot. If I knew you were playing fast, I will go first pick Marvel, right? And then they will try to speed contest that, and then I can pivot straight into Tiamat Sanya, Linglo. And then you're like, oh, this guy's tanking down.
You got baited, brother.
Oh, this guy's tanking down. And then you'll take all the DPS, and then I'll take a Hellkit at the end, or a Heinrich, or a Rahu. And then you're going to be like, okay, I banned the DPS. You don't have enough damage to kill me. But if you don't ban my Rahu, you have to deal with a Sanya, Tiamat, Rahu, and Linglo. If you don't ban them out,
so that's a question I have for you. How did you feel like adapting to this game was for you? Because I can already hear your your knowledge of the characters and like who to use, who to pair up with who. Like, how do you feel like getting acclimated to this game was for you with like learning the construct of like who you want to place with who you wanted to have out speeding or rotating after, like stuff like that? Like, how'd you feel about that, and then how did you go about actually implementing those things?
This is a hard one for me because I have a lot of prior knowledge into the game. Not in terms of Etheria. I have a lot of prior knowledge in terms of like PvP and understanding speed tuning, understanding what kit works, understanding that if you're playing aggressive, you will need, you know, like 3 DPS, two supports, we call them CR pushers back in E7, but here we call them terminator pushers. Playing, you know, defensively, knowing that a defense team usually involves around 2 bruisers and 3 supports, one of them being a tank, kind of thing, right? So I understand basic team formation and how to, you know, put them together, gel them together, right, to make this hybrid little combo thing. And also there is also this thing that we used to call the reverse aggro, right, where we will pick 3 supports, right? Like we'll go support, and you're like, okay, this guy's tanking now, and then all of a sudden we just crank the heat up, and then we just go massive DPS, and you're like, whoa, what's happening here? Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So for example, let's say, you know, I start off with like, you know, a Tiamat. You think I'm gonna go, you know, okay, he's gonna go slow, right? And then I go Hellkit into Messiah, and you're like, okay, he's just picking DPS here. What's happening? And then at the end, I go Sanya Tsukiyomi, and you're like, oh shit, I got 2 things I got to deal with now. That's 2 combos, and they don't see it because you separated the team formation. Instead of gelling them together like Tiamat, Sanya together, and then they can see it visually. You put the Sanya on 4th pick, 5th pick, and they can't see it. And then they ban something that they don't see. Like they will ban the Tsukiyomi because they can definitely see the Messiah because they're afraid of the Messiah, or they ban the Messiah. But they don't realize that your Tsukiyomi can also support your Tiamat, where you can, you know, use the Tsukiyomi to push the Tiamat first, to put the shield up, protect yourself, and then the Sanya will go, right? And then the your Tiamat will go, and then you can taunt them. And then after taunting them, you can use the AoE on Tsukiyomi to reset cooldowns, and then you can taunt again. They won't see that, right? So when you break up formations and you understand formations and you know how to gel the formations together, that's also a very, very important aspect that, you know, only through playing hundreds of RTA games, I swear to God, I have played maybe 10,000 RTA games collectively, right? To have this knowledge behind me. And then eventually you're going to learn, you know, about counter drafting, right? So counter drafting basically means like, for example, if you pick Tiamat, the easiest counter draft is to pick Linglo and Sanya, right? Take away the healers. Right now, take away their value. Counter draft is one way to counter draft. Another way to counter draft is if someone picks a Kraken to you, I will pick Hellkit, right? It may be opposite. I may be picking an elemental disadvantage here, but I'm picking an immunity. So I'm counter drafting in that way. And then you also have to realize how to protect your picks. So say, for example, if they go Kraken and you know that you have to go Hellkit here to protect this, what's going to stop Hellkit here? Heinrich. So you pick Hellkit Heinrich. So you protect yourself from getting counterpicked. That kind of thing.
Dude, it's crazy having this conversation because I feel like, and that's why like I'm taking it all in because it's making me happy. Like a lot of the things, like, and even one of the things that like I feel like I really try to get players to understand is like, guys, if you want to play this like type of game seriously, you have to learn how to ban pick properly. Like half of the battle, I feel like, is how you draft. If you can just out draft,
it's 80% of the fight. 80% of the fight is drafting. Like my gear compared to Iski, who is the rank 1, I beat him, by the way. Okay, his gear, his shells are next level. The only one that I really cannot beat is Kecker, because his gear and the way he built his unit, I can tell it's very laser focused. He understands what he's doing, whereas I didn't. So I couldn't outspeed him. I couldn't out-tank him. So I was already going to lose, right? No matter how I outdrafted him, he just had better gear than me, so I was getting gear diffed, you know?
Yeah, I was about to say that's what we say in E7 is you just got gear diff, and that does like you said, it's like the laser
happens,
focus.
That is the 20%. That is the 20% because the other 80% of me playing was just me out drafting players and understanding how they play and knowing their key unit and taking it from them as well at the same time. Right?
Yeah, so, that's like it's so insane. It's so insane.
Because when you're in the state of playing RTA, you are only looking at, you know, especially if you lose, you're like, fuck, I need to play another game, I need to get my points back. But you don't remember the name and what they play, and you're like, what did he do again?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whereas I pay a very, very close attention to that, right? I do not miss it.
Yeah.
Like I was showing off my battle report in my video. I played this guy 3 times, right? And I knew that his Kraken was the fastest unit because I lost to him the first game, right?
Yeah.
So I let him pick the Kraken, but I will pick all his other speed units.
Oh, so then when you ban his Kraken,
so
he has no
rotation, right? And then he cancelled me, right? And so he started realizing that I was doing that, and then he swapped it to Doki. Because he never picked the Kraken in the last game that got me into 9th place, but he picked Doki. And I was like, that motherfucker sly. I see that.
Yeah.
I saw that. So I banned Doki and then I win again. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So once people start realizing it, because I played him like at least 4 times. So it was him, and then 2 other people, and then him again, and then him again, and him again. Right? And because I played him 3 times in a row, I knew he was already going to rage play, right? Rage Q. So I was like, so that's easy 78 points right there, because I was only getting about 16 to 18 points from him because he was a much lower rank than I was. And so at that point, at the last day, everyone that was climbing was the people who were trying to push into top 16, not the top 16 trying to push to top 3. Right, so the points were a lot.
See, that's so crazy. It's like even that mentality. Like you guys are just basically like rank sitting, basically at that point. Like when everybody else is like, "Oh wait, it's last day. Let me try to push," and you've already did X amount of fights, got X amount of points. So everybody else is really in that rabbit race where you guys are just like,
so it's
you're just chilling
how you pace yourself as well, because there are 2 strategies. Like I said, one, you either sit really high up there and you just see where the ladder takes you and whether your points is going to be the last slot in the ladder and how long does it take to get you there, or 2, you try to do the thing where you play last day and you try to push yourself all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
Right? I chose the first strategy because I started noticing how slow the matchmaking was. Because in E7, the matchmaking is 30 seconds longest you ever wait for a match in E7. Right? So you can just play last day like this and non-stop. You can just keep getting points. Whereas in this game, you couldn't. You had to sit there for 2-3 minutes, right? Where you can even kick on the home screen, reconfigure a couple of your units before you even find a match, right?
Yeah.
So because of the lack of players playing RTA at that time, because it's a beta, obviously, you have to play it smart. So I started, doing the calculations there and, working out the point system, figuring out where I need to sit to be safe, and just chill. The hardest part for me was to chill because you're sitting you're sitting there anxious as fuck, looking at your screen every hour. 7 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours left, 4 hours left, and you're just sitting there anxious looking at the scores and be like, am I gonna get pushed out? Maybe I should play one more game just to be safe. And then you're just sitting there in that dilemma. And the hardest thing is to sit on your hands and do nothing. I promise you that is the hardest thing to do.
Man, but you know what though? It's like, it's funny how it kind of paid off, because I think like that's the one thing that I think a lot of players, like I kind of got that feedback, was like they felt like this beta was a chance for them to kind of learn, and they were able to kind of see like, okay, these are some mistakes I don't want to make, or even just things that I would have preferred to have done, or I will do when the release happens. And so I feel like with all of that, like, do you feel like your approach is going to be somewhat similar, or are you going to go like at this game a lot differently? And where do you feel like that really starts for you, like in terms of like really trying to identify what kind of approach you want to take with this game? Because I think some people like are coming into this game they don't really they haven't really like identified if they want to really play PvP or if they're really here for the PvE. So like, what do you feel like are like, some of the things that would be a little bit more catered to the approach if you want to focus PvP? Because I think a lot of the focus has been more, hey, clear Doki Doki, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do well in PvP, right? Especially now we're talking about that, how, hey, listen, you can have all the speed gear you want, but if your pets suck, you're not doing anything. You're not necessarily outspeeding people because you have Swift Rush, So like, what would your advice be there?
The good thing about this game is that if you watch the Tiamat Cup that just happened earlier, I mean, like maybe just yesterday, at the time of this recording, the person that won was Kacker, and his play is very dynamic. He can go fast, he can go slow, and when he goes slow, it's not easy to kill him. It is not easy to kill him. You can tank in this game. You don't have to chase speed, right? Chasing speed is fun, right? Showing off, I have a quad roll gear and you do not, right? That is fun.
Yeah.
But what's more fun is sitting there, watching your opponent try to cleave you, and you're like, did you even touch me, bro? Don't forget, we have things like Lighthouse. We have things like Amber as shells. We have a set called Bloodbath. You know how hard it is to cleave through that shit, bro? I don't know if you know this, right? But I mentioned this in my video earlier. Do you know the interaction between Tiamat Amber, the new pet, Amber?
It literally like skyrockets her, like where she like dies, but when she comes back, it like basically puts her in the Dragon Mother form. It's insane. So, I'm like, who?
Yeah. So basically, the entire interaction there is that when you nuke a Tiamat, basically you put her on 6 stacks of bloodshed, and because of the way Amber is written, it says before your unit dies, if your unit is about to die, you don't die, and you heal 60%. So that instantly adds to your bloodsheds before it gets wiped off. That turns you into Dragon Mother form to help you nullify completely all the turn meter pushback and gain a turn and get a second life. That's fucked. You know what I mean? that's fucked. If that interaction actually stays in the actual launch, I think Amber is the go-to when you play Tiamat. If you see a Tiamat that has Amber on her, she needs to go. She needs to be banned. because if you played Epic 7 back in the day, like year 1, year 2, people first picked RB. And RB was still a force ban. Because the idea is when you are playing drafting, you're always trying to ban the last pick. Because if your draft is good enough, you should be drafting so well that the last pick is usually the must ban, because your entire draft should be able to answer their draft, right?
Yeah.
But back in the day, people used to go first pick RB and then pick 2 DPS, 2 turn meter pushes, and RB is still bad. This is going to be the same case with Tiamat. Can you imagine trying to nuke a Tiamat twice? Your first turn, you've already blocked all your S3s. You're already done with your S3s. She's coming back full health. How are you killing her? You're not.
Yeah.
That's the answer. And she's going to go into Dragon Mother again.
That's why I'm interested, because there's a character which I really wish you would have had play with her this go around, because she like was insane last beta. Hoyan, man. Like they're apparently reworking her. We don't know exactly what the rework is going to be, but I'm actually hoping it's something to answer things like Tiamat, because like Tiamat, like, and I think that's the interesting thing is like I had a few people that's like, oh man, like her value just drops, and I'm like, dude, where? I'm like, this unit, like the more you build her, the more insane she actually gets, the more access you actually get to like the ambers and stuff like that. She gets
that's
insane.
The thing, right? Like we were talking earlier, I was saying, all right, so we can talk about that whole conversation between Tiamat and Rosa, right?
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
So my personal opinion is, when you're talking about Tiamat and Rosa, you have to talk about your time horizon in the game. Are you here for short term? I just want to get all the speed clears and I want to look cool in PvE. Or do you want to be here for the long game and be like, all right, I want to play this game long term. And if I'm playing this game long term, my end game is naturally going to have to be RTA, because you're going to clear all the PvE content. There's not going to be any more end game PvE for you. So the only resort left is RTA, because that's forever, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to go into that route, Tiamat is always going to be the better pick because power creeping a bruiser is way harder than power creeping a DPS, which is a flavor of the month, right? That is one thing. The second thing you have to remember is that Rosa is a DPS that needs her skills fully skilled
max
before you can even start doing things. If you have a nice little squishy plus 60 speed Rosa that is not faster than anything in the fucking sun, right? And it's squishy as hell. One smack from that Terramaton or that Doki middle boss, she will just crumble.
Yeah.
Right? So you can clear fast, but can you really clear it that fast? Is it really worth it?
This is like, and granted, I was making do, right? I was getting by, I was clearing stuff, but at the end of the day, when it really boiled down to it, I think that was one of the things, like, people were watching me play Rosa, which, like, just kind of like TDLR, I play every beta with a different character, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even really intentional to play this beta with Rosa, but I hadn't actually started fresh with an account with her yet. So I was like, okay, let's see. We've done everybody else just about at this point, so let's see how it feels with Rosa. And I was like telling him, like, honestly, this is pretty close to the start I had with Chloros, which I would argue is like one of the worst starting picks, like just for trying to clear PvE. Like, the dude he just requires way too much thought process. Like, ooh, do I have enough hit counts? Do I have enough damage? And then he also has the squishy problem too. So it's like, I feel like for the most like average player or casual player, it's not even like so much that I don't think they have like the capacity to obviously like set up things, right? I think most players are pretty savvy to some degree, but I think like most players typically, if there's a way for you to make things easier, you're going to try to go that route. Like, it's like, okay, I can do this a much easier format and it's going to give you something that gives you more longevity. There's no character in the game that, which I would even argue closest to must have, in my opinion, is Tiamat. Like if I'm being honest, just because she has so much utility, and it's like one thing to be a jack of all trades, but a master of nothing. No, she's a jack of all trades and does everything really good. Like, it's like,
yeah,
you got
I wouldn't
much.
say she does everything very good. Like, if you're trying to do speed clear and you're trying to use Tiamat to speed clear, you are smoking something fine, and I want half of it. But
it's not clear. Yeah, for sure.
You're definitely not speed clear. But I can tell you the amount of utility and the amount of what is that word? The amount of versatility that she brings to the table is next level. You can bring her into PvP, she's a force ban. You can bring her into PvE to, put shield up, do taunts, do healing, do AoE. She can do all of that just fine. You want to find a tank that helps you survive waves because she damage shares. She does that.
That damage share is the biggest thing.
Yeah, like she does everything, just not well. Like, Rosa does DPS exceptionally well. But fun fact, when I was clearing the Ethernet rally, I finally managed to clear Karuru, and I was like, thank fucking God. That shit's done and dusted. Then you go to the second wave, and then you have Apate, okay? Right up the top there.
Yeah.
Okay? And I was like, okay, I have a full team of blue units. I'm going Kraken, into Tiamat, into Lingluo, into Rosa, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give Rosa my Messiah gear. And my Messiah has 20k HP, by the way. Right? So I have like plus 10k HP, so I'm like, okay, so my Rosa is pretty spot on. I have like plus 82 speed on him. So I was like, okay, just slam his gear, full DPS, send it. I go in there, and that Apate literally petrifies me turn 1. I go, okay, so my Rosa is not putting no Bladeheart Bloom there. Cool. And then she goes again. Her little minions goes, hits her, she's dead. I'm like, she didn't even move. Bruh.
Yep.
Alright. So the next turn, I just decided I'm going to manual it. So I manualed it. Start again. This time she didn't petrify her. I was like, cool, let's go. Linglo puts up immunity, Bladeheart Bloom, go. None of my units fucking crit. So I'm not I'm not doing no follow-up attacks anyway. And I was like, why the fuck did you bring Rosa?
See, that's what that's what I was saying earlier, and I feel like nobody believes you until somebody else says it, and it's like, dude. If you look at what her kit says, it says on a crit hit, it like literally her allies have to be built into crit. And a lot of the units you are going to be pairing, a lot of them aren't even necessarily emphasizing crit right away, especially as you're building up. You're really trying to emphasize the stats that you need, whether it be bulk or the effect accuracy, or you're trying to aim for more speed. I would even argue for a lot of the units that just kind of scale off of one thing. It's like you're doing Born or you're doing Hellkit, it's just attack. If you're doing Lily or you're doing Tiamat, it's HP. If you're doing, say Tsukuyomi or you're doing Rahu, it's defense. So those values come a little bit as more, I would say, as you start to progress and you start to kind of fine tune a little bit more. And for her to work in any team you put her in, everybody needs to have a certain amount of crit, because if they don't crit, she doesn't do anything for that extra follow-up.
I was just sitting there, I was like, fuck it, S3, Blade Hard Bloom, let's go. Tiamat hits. Where's my counterattacks? Where's my follow-ups? Kraken hits. Where's my counterattacks? Linglo hits. Where's my counterattacks? Where's my follow-ups? Then I opened up her skills. I was like, on a crit, I was like, why? I don't have crit. What do you mean? So I just
somebody was asking.
So the whole said battle. I'm not doing it. I can't be bothered. This is stuffed.
So it's like, and that's the thing though. It's like, granted, do not get me wrong, and guys, you guys watching, do not get us wrong. Rosa built up in the right situation is like literally nuking like a lot of things. Like she's definitely insane when you're able to rotate her into the right stuff. Even in PvE, which I have been able to test, when you go into like things like I think it's like Shadow Flame Hoyan and like Rengoku and stuff like that. Rosa in game is like another world of DPS just because she can hit so much in comparison to a lot of other characters. She's insane. But that was what was one of the things that kind of made me already recognize from that point. I was like, ooh, this is a unit that actually needs that TLC. Like she really needs to be invested in. And I think that was one thing, like, ooh, you know what? I actually want to ask you about this, because this was something I thought was actually quite interesting, and I'm pretty sure you noticed it. But did you notice how, like, in the skill investment in characters, there's some characters where their speed was also in their skill 3, but then in other characters it would be in their like skill 1, for example. How did you feel about that part? Like, do you feel like that was something that like you took into consideration when making like certain decisions with skill up investment?
Yes.
Yes. Like how did you feel about that?
So like when I was skilling up my Tiamat's S3 is HP, but her S1 is speed, right? But the part about that is that it makes sense for it to be in S3. The HP is supposed to be in S3 and not the speed, because that is all to do with her true damage multipliers, right? Which is based off of max HP. So
okay,
when I was trying to build my units, this is where I messed up. I was trying to go for the speed on Tiamat, and I was trying to go for the HP on the S3, and then realized I'm out of lattices. And I was like, okay, I might as well I need to use the lattices on units that can just give me speed, because that I was lacking, right? I'm seeing people going with 171 fucking lilies, right? Plus 171. I was like, how the f do you get so much speed? And I was like, I need to find ways to cheat speed at this point, right?
Yeah.
And then at that point I realized, I was halfway trying to get Tiamat's speed, and now I just wasted a lattice on that. And then now I can't get Tsukuyomi speed because I've missed out on the speed, the lattice, because I put it into that, and then now I can't complete it.
Yeah,
that kind of thing, right? In the beta, it's a massive deal. In full launch, it's not so much, because you have all the time in the world to level them up. Okay?
Yeah.
But it is still a very scarce resource, and I highly recommend that you get all the fragments, you get all the lattices first before you even think about, spending your arena coins on something else, your union coins on anything else. get those lattices, because those are very, very, very important, especially when you're doing your SR units. Like Grey, the turn 1 the cooldown reduction on his S2 and S3 has to be in sync. You can't do them one or the other. You have to do them both at the same time. So that's already 2, right? Then you have to do Sanya, because Sanya has speed as well. And then you have to do, Kraken. Kraken has speed as well, right? So all of those require lattices, and they're all in the later portions of it. So you need, bare minimum, you need 3 already on each unit. And that goes by quick. That goes by very fast, right? So you have to make sure that you are paying attention to what you're building and try to focus very, very, very niche when you're playing. So focus on the PvE units. That's why I like the SR units now, because I realize, this lattices is actually really important, because you can focus very well on your PvE side and make sure they can perform there, which indirectly in the early game you can use them in PvP, and then they will slowly get rotated out into the SSRs anyway. And at that time you already build up, a nice little collection of perfect lattices that you can put into, dedicated units that you want to, either progress in PvP or PvE or both, right? Like Messiah can 100% do both. I've seen Messiah cleave Doki Inferno, right? With the proper setup. Yang and Kazuyo and like a defense breaker, and then boom, he just nukes the first team, the first wave. I've seen it before, right? So like putting lattices into Messiah is smart, because you can use them both in PvP, PvE, right? So you just need to pay very close attention to where you're putting stuff, and that was where I messed up, because I was all over the shop trying to get speed here, a bit of speed there, a bit of speed here, a bit of speed there. When in reality, I should just focus on one unit, make it perfect, and go to the next one, then go to the next one, then go to the next one, which is something that you can only do in full launch, right? Because 10 days of playing the game, I think I had
it's almost 2 weeks.
About 11 or 10 perfect lattices as a pay to play player. Obviously, you probably will get like 8-ish as a free to play for perfect lattices. I'm not sure what the math is there, but I definitely have a little bit more than you. But I got around that amount. If you do the math, that's 10 days. So by 2 months, you should have enough to, at least get, 2 to 3 SSRs. Perfect. Right? Because there is also a thing like we used to do in E7, where there is the Mologoras that were really, really scarce year 1 to 4 of E7. It was super scarce. And what we will do is let's say we are building, for example, let's say Lingluo. Okay? We will go all the way to like the last level and then stop, or just completely ignore skilling up the first skill and just focus on skilling up skill 3, skill 2. So you have to pay attention to that as well, where you want to put the units and what is more important in terms of level up, and where the stats are that is important. So like for example, like Tsukiyomi's S1 is where her speed is. You just want to get up to the 15 speed and then stop, because the S1 doesn't do much. So you can save on one lattice there and you can put it somewhere else. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, and that's what I mean, man. It's like that's the strategy component that I feel like, especially for free to play. And what I think makes this even more comforting though is that you're a spender and you're still being like conscious of this, because it's like you mentioned before, it wasn't nearly as much resources as players thought that you guys had over X amount of play, or over like the free to play. It's like, no, we still still have to make smart decisions.
That I have there were times when I was stuck, and I would just open the shop and look at everything being bought and be like, I have fucking nothing to go off of. And I'm like,
I guess that's good feedback for the devs.
Yeah, I will legit be stuck, and I will look at the shop and I'll be like, that's grayed out, that's grayed out, that's grayed out, that's grayed out. Okay, let me now go into the event, that new Dazzling Blaze event. They have a shop there. Go in there, bought out. I'm like, there's nothing to buy. Fuck, what can I buy here? I'll look in the exchange shop and I'll be like, okay, I can do arena. I'll do arena. So I'll start doing arena. Now I have to play the game, and I was like, I don't want to play. I already grinded in real life for the cash. Let me just buy the stuff. I have to grind in game, and I was like, okay, and I'll just play arena, I guess. Play arena, get all the gold. Don't do this. I'm telling you, don't do this. Get all the arena coins, spend it all on coins, only to not roll any speed and be like, I'm fucking pissed off now. Go back into the shop, look at the shop again, grade out. I was like, I've got nothing to buy. I can't progress. So as a whale, you don't really have to spend because there's nothing to buy.
So would there be anything like from that perspective? Because I feel like I've asked like a lot of people I've had on the channel for like we always talk about the free to play perception and perspective, right? But I feel like for the spending part, one of those big things that I feel like comes out of like really honestly understanding like the whole purpose of like what spenders provide. Spenders really do keep the game alive, right? Like they really do, because a lot of these games, like, it's not free to play that's necessarily funding the next update, right? Like they're not funding the new characters coming out, necessarily. So are there anything or are there things that you feel like the devs could do to maybe promote certain aspects of spending that you would look more like forward to spending on that wouldn't necessarily like just thrash the game to a point to where like there's like that loss of competitiveness across the board that we're kind of seeing now?
I personally think that right now what we have is pretty good, right?
Okay.
Even as a spender, because I value the competition more than what I can spend to, improve my account, because I can get that over time anyway, right? But what I really, really appreciate is how they care about the free-to-play being able to compete. Because if the free-to-play can compete, and the free-to-play knows that they can compete with the whales, right? That means that the competition is live, and I'm not sitting in queue for 3 minutes at a time just to get a queue. Because I have PTSD from this like having to wait there half an hour just to get time.
Oh my god, you remember that?
Okay, I have had PTSD with that, and because I have had both, I have a barbell spectrum where I have E7 with 30 seconds, and within 30 seconds you will get a match, usually within 5, right? And that's everyday constant like this, non-stop. And then I had the other spectrum of this light where I had to wait 30 minutes for one match, and sometimes even 1.5 hours just to get one fight in, right? And I still managed to get top 1. That's how dedicated I can be, right? But then again, the fact that they are balancing the fact that free-to-play can compete means that we will have a lot more competition, a lot more matchmaking. And I'm thinking from the free-to-play's perspective, because from a whale's perspective is, if I invest X amount of dollars to qualify for the EWS, that better make my money back.
Yeah, true.
Whereas the free-to-play goes in, competes, manages to qualify, wins the World Cup, it becomes a champion story. And then it brings more people in. True. Right? It brings more free-to-play people in. That means you'll get more DAUs, more MAUs, which is good for, the matrix of the game. And then the spenders will want to, support even more.
Honestly, Sterbby, you've brought like a really interesting. You might end up becoming everyone's favorite. Not gonna lie, that mindset is very indifferent, right? In the scope of like the bigger picture, I guess is really what it is. Because that really is a really important thing. I think is just like everybody, I guess, kind of collectively having that be like goal of like, what is going to allow this community to be able to thrive the most in comparison to a lot of the predecessor games and some of the things that, that we can take away, that we've learned to be able to apply to this game that can make this game a much better experience when it comes down to like the World Cups and championships and stuff like that. And I feel like that's the biggest thing is that like, even like with Summoner's War, like I remember like that was something I was like super interested in, and it was just like, oh, but have you spent like 80K on your account yet? No? Okay, good luck. Like it was like you had to really be super invested. So like no matter how much you were like really like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate every single day, try hard as a free to play, it really wasn't a way for you to feel like you were able to really sit in that bracket or be able to even like get lucky enough to maybe win fights because you just drafted better, or like even just that possibility was like very, very
like small. I don't know if I don't know if you read the rules on the EWS, but basically after the qualifiers, once you get into the top 8 offline matches, You are playing on a dev account. You're not playing on your account anymore. So everyone's on level playing field. So you can be a free to play. You can be a free to play, get through the knockout stages, get into the top 8, and you can play with whatever gear you want, whatever unit you want, build it however the hell you want, because you have everything and anything you can build, right? You're not gated to, okay, this 250k account is beating a 5k account, obviously is going to win kind of mentality. If you got skills, you're on equal playing fields. Like, bro, there's no excuse there, right?
Yeah, for real. Yeah,
right? So really if you understand how to play PvP and you understand how to play the points game, the ELO game, you will definitely naturally get into top 100 already. Naturally. Then it's a matter of how far you want to push from there, right? If you want to go into top 50, top 16, top 8, top 3, first place, that's all a matter of numbers at that point. Because I used to be, I'm still good friends with a very famous, I don't know, E7 player, whether you know him or not, Jinte.
Sounds familiar. Did he win was it first or second?
Yeah, he's been I think he's like Hall of Fame for like six seasons in a row, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's been okay. I feel like
I'm quite close friends with him. He has a win rate of 87% in E7, and he only plays 200 games.
Oh wow!
200 games, and he has about an 80% win rate. That because he only plays last 2 weeks, and he just wins, right? And he just gets first place. Right?
Just wins. That's crazy.
That's where I got that strategy from, where you just farm non-stop. You make sure all your gears are given to all the speed farming, because in E7 you can farm forever. Put it into your speed farmer, and you just farm 24/7 for 2 months straight. And then the first 2 weeks, you re-gear all your units, you fix up all your gear, and then you re-optimize all your units. Then the last 2 weeks, you push, right? That's where I got that from. But in a game like Etheria, where your stamina is gated, you don't have to do that. You're gated anyway. So even if you 1-star clear and you're only clearing 5 runs at a time, it can be a bit more tedious. I give you that. But you're still using all your stamina you can for the day on the equal playing field with a whale. Like, I can't do anything about that. I can max refresh, but the first 2 weeks you're keeping the growth with right. Eventually there will be that gap where I can farm more than you. But if you are still keeping that trajectory, and then during the double drop event you jam all your stamina pots into it, you will still get that spike, just that you'll just never catch up to us in terms of the spending. Really. Because you're going to remember the RNG factor, right? The RNG factor of, rolling gear.
Yeah.
Not every build is going to be lucky. There's going to be the free-to-play player that's going to pull a Lily, right? Shout out to Vulcan, by the way. No, the guy's free-to-play. Man has Lily. I'm a whale, and I have a Prowess 3 Messiah and a Prowess 4 Heinrich. Where's my Lily? Where's my Lily? Right? Okay, and I'm not even, and I'm only purposely, I may be a whale, but I spend my money where it's the most where I get the most estimated value from, right? So and that makes sense, my train of thought is I'm gonna pull all the units day 0 because there's only 50 units, and that means there's only like what? How many units are there in the SSR? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 24 SSRs.
22? Oh yeah, 24. Yeah.
There's only 24 SSRs. If I pull everything day 0, that means I only have to worry about the new units. I don't have to worry about pulling anything else anymore. That means I can just go to Raid Up Banners every month and just get that, right? And you don't even really need dupes in this game because dupes don't really work. I don't know whether that's a myth or not, but apparently dupes don't work. So that doesn't really affect, you F2Ps as well. Like, we whales will get mad if we pull a dupe now. We're like, we don't need a dupe. This is nothing for me.
Yeah, I feel like so like the thing with the dupes, and that's like something like I even had to ask them. It's like the value of the dupe, I guess, is like very minuscule because they gave every single character the same dupes basically, but except the skill or the dupe 2 and the dupe 4, I think it is.
Yeah, like DPS will get crit rate, crit damage, and like the debuffers gets accuracy. That kind of stuff, I hope. Yeah. I mean, those are fine to be in the game anyway, right? Because you're building your units based on, you know, those substats. Because I would hate, right, as a whale, let's say I pull up to you, let's say with Heinrich. Hellkit's fourth prowess is a crit rate +8, right? Yeah. Imagine I build 100% crit on this guy, and then I go into RTA with it disabled, and then now I have 82 crit, 92 crit, and then I miss a crit. I'm like, what do you mean that I miss a crit? I calculated that attack.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That would piss me right off. You know what I mean?
I get that 100%. That's why I feel like I like that value, even it's not, and I think it's one of the things we had to kind of take away, I would say, is a big takeaway from like E7. I think when it came down to speed imprinting, that was something that really like would take a character's value like to a whole nother level, up until the point where they changed it to where like you could use different currencies to be able to dupe up characters. But when it was like only the same unit, so like you're talking about like, you know, ML units, and it's like, well, this character has a speed imprint. That's like, now we're talking about that's now making them X amount of speed faster, and you can only get that speed if you dupe them. That's one thing I feel like this game does really well, is they stay away from values that I think are historically known to kind of be triggers, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, still crit rate, crit rate is still a trigger, right? I used to see units with, you know, because in E7 we have a thing called gear scoring, right? So we used
gear
to calculate gear score based on the substats. So with crit used to be a 1.5 times multiplier, and speed used to be a 2 times multiplier. When we saw crit, we used to go, this is a max dupe unit, because that is equals to, I think that's like what it gave us, like 18 crit, so 18 times 1.5. So it was like almost 20 something gear score on that unit, just like that you get free. And we're like, that's a lot of gear score. So we'll just do it that way. I don't know how we're going to do it in this game yet, because we can't really tell. And because the game system in this game is a bit weird, right? You have the 1286, right? You have the 1286 gear set. And then you have to, you know, consider the fact that, you know, you have to think about how you want to build your units. Do you want to build your units based on the gear and then find the supplement shell for it? Or do you want to build around a shell strategy and then build the sets around that shell? Like, how do you balance that? Like, for example, Hellkit, okay? The way I see you can play Hellkit is two ways. One, you can play him as a bruiser, right? Or a real bruiser. And a bruiser, I'm talking about, you know, you want to run attack, HP on his right side, right? Yeah. And then you want to use your shell as your damage for Hellkit. So your Hellkit is supporting while your damage comes from your shell, right? That's one way you can play him. Another way you can play him is you can just play him full damage, and then you can just go with Codex of Magic, right? So you can just S3 twice, give that support while dishing out two times the S3. You can also go that route. Or you can also play a more supportive route where you can just go with a Bramble set where you support, and then if someone touches you, counterattack, you stun them, you counterattack, stun them, and you just play supportively, and then you run, you know, a more supportive shell on him, like, you know, an Alicorn or something, so that you make sure that he's always cleansed and ready to go, that kind of stuff. Alicorn is probably not the best one because he has short barrier, just saying, right? But a supportive one, right? A supportive one, like Artisan maybe could work, because you can just make that shield so fucking thick that you'll always have, you know, the shroud barrier,
some shield, and it gives him that defense, so you can take a hit.
Build one unit, like there's no right way to build a unit yet, right?
And even then, it's like, what is your comp? Because that's like I said, I got like demolished, but it was like one of the first teams I seen do it, where the guy literally had every Alicorn, and I was just like, okay, like, you know, like now I have conscious of somebody that's like, yeah, you went first, you rotated me like 5 times, but through all my bulk. And when I finally get my turn, they did nerf Alicorn though, because Alicorn was kind of crazy, but Alicorn was like purifying like everything basically. And they changed it now to where like it's 2. So like people would do like a combination with Doki Doki and then like Alicorn. You would never have a debuff on your team. What her stack says now is it only, I think, debuffs or removes 3, I think it is. Before, it used to remove all debuffs. So when that was the case, you could literally drop like 12 debuffs, DLT stacks, defense break, vulnerability, erosion. Doki Doki would get her turn and remove all of it from everyone. So I was like, dude, like, so like there's been like that, I guess kind of like that progressive nature of like these games as they evolve, where they've gone and they've patched and bounced units out. Cause like there were definitely some units that were like really oppressive. I mean, Hellkid, point in case, since he was talking about him, Hellkid, his shield, like people thought his shield is ridiculous now. His shield was ridiculous before he had a cap on. Like now he actually has a cap. Before it was like however much stat you could put on him, that was how much shield he had. And so it was like that, and then having to deal with the fact that it has a built-in immunity. So like it was like, okay, dude, this isn't even like your regular shield. This is immunity now that you're dealing with. So he's counteracting 2 things at the same time. So yeah, I feel like and I guess that's like one of the last questions I wanted to ask you. Like with everything that like you've kind of been able to experience with the RTA development of units, and even like with the strategies that you like were able to kind of like adapt from E7 into this game, what would be some of the things that you would like to see going into the release with like the development of RTA? What would you say would be some hard set in stone requirements for the RTA in this game to do extremely well? Like, from we can start from the bottom up all the way into like progressing into like, once things are settled and stuff like that.
I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think that RTA should not be open for at least a month.
Okay.
RTA should not be open for at least a month, and then the season will start once it opens, right? So it gives an opportunity for the players to, not worry about, oh shit, I gotta do RTA, right? Because that is a lot of pressure, right? And some people are just completely ignore it from there on. If you give someone 1 month to play, you've given them a good amount of time to, get some gear, right? And then that's where you can really play proper RTA instead of like going in week 1 and then someone's going to go, oh, look at me, I'm rank 1 in RTA now. And that's because no one's really playing it, and you have, you luck sack the best speed gear, and therefore Marvel is just carrying your entire game. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you just cannot stay in top 100 anymore. And then you get pissed off, and either you rage queue and then you just eventually burn out and quit the game, or you just don't play at all and then you're like, RTA sucks. So I think that they shouldn't open it for a whole month. Leave the normal arena should be open. Let people play there. Okay? But RTA, leave it for like at least a month. That's what I think they should do. Alright, so that people get gears, get sorted, and then open up that and then have that season go on. Okay? Because once that happens, at least you give them a whole month to, gather resources, gather units, build units. Then you can start with the pre-ban, because pre-ban is quite important, right? Because
that's true.
This beta, whoever got first picked Marvel at the start of the game, right? At the start of RTA, won the game. Because if they go Marvel, Lily, Kraken, the fuck you gonna ban? you gotta ban the Marvel, right? But the Lily has high base speed, and if that Lily goes first, he just pushes Messiah, you're dead. Either way, right? But if you have a pre-ban and you say, okay, I don't have speed, I can just pre-ban the Marvel. You can't play with Marvel. I cannot deal with it anyway. Now we play, and then now we're on a fair playing ground. That works. That means you open up pre-bans, right? Yeah. I think that is fair, right? Giving up, staying away from RTA for like a month. Even I want that, right? I don't want to have that pressure of, oh shit, week 1's open already. Therefore, I don't have a choice but to, play RTA a lot sooner than I am supposed to play. Because realistically speaking, you want to be farming the first 2 months and then really playing the last month of RTA, right?
Yeah.
And so if you push that one month back, that means I can farm for a total of 4 months instead of 3. So you have more time.
That makes sense. Yeah, in between each
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is my take on the RTA meta, right? If they can, what I'm really hoping is how they are going to balance RTA and how they're going to, be open to balance changes and patch notes and all that stuff, and different seasons in RTA. Because I played Sword of Convallaria, which is also a game from XD, right?
Yep.
And they are super supportive of the PvP scene. Unfortunately, that game does not have PvP. It doesn't have, like a real-time arena. They have a casual, PvP, right? And still, like, I played that game and I played one of the biggest community tournaments there, right? And I won first place, and they were so supportive that they even gave me product, right?
Yeah.
So that's something really cool already. So I can see that their vision is very PvP focused, and if they can really, make this whole PvP game enjoyable for the free to play or the dolphins or the goldfish, the whales are always going to have fun. So I'm going to exclude them. I'm going to exclude myself as well. We're always going to have fun. All right.
Yeah.
But if we can make the PvP scene fun for them, right? Because let's be real here, Hoyo games have already, tainted the whole PvP stuff, all the cash grab and stuff like that with Netmarble. Both of them are just really cash grabby, KPI only kind of companies.
Yeah.
If they can shift that dynamic, we can bring a whole lot more players into PvP. And I know that this day and age, for Etheria, for XD to have the guts to come up with a PvP game is massive.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's
massive.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think surprised me the most was that a company was even coming forward at this point in the time with a PvP game at all. I mean, if we're being honest, a lot of games usually try to go for the thing that's more certain. Like, it's like, okay, we can just, do our PvE game, do a patch, more PvE. We might do a little bit of things that interact, or have the players interact, but it's never going to be something so, astronomical that now they're like literally doing PvP. So it's like they'll always kind of play with the idea, but they never actually do PvP. And so I feel like for a game that's like, no, we want to be esports, we want to actually have RTA. We want, we want to do these things. We actually want there to be tournaments throughout the entire year. Like I will say that was one thing they did confirm was like with the tournaments and stuff like that, they were going to house or host one a year, which makes sense because it's like the world championship thing. But throughout the year, they want to be endorsed other tournaments and stuff like that. So I think that cool. That to me is like one of the things that I was like, well, that's one thing that I feel like is going to separate Etheria from a lot of other communities that have these RTAs is like, not just doing an RTA that's like all about SRs or SSRs, but you can even do themed RTAs where we can, especially if they keep that culture going where Rs are like super valuable and SRs are still extremely valuable. You can have entire RTA tournaments where you're using SRs and R rarities.
Yeah, and people can just win tournaments with, SR units. I've seen it before. Yeah. Right? One of my guild members literally went into first place like in the first 4 days of RTA. Just with SRs. Yeah. Just with SRs, just smacking SSR silly. Right? Marvel into Kraken. Like, what do you do? Marvel into Kraken. That's so fucking broken already. Right?
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Right? Deep freeze, like, bruh. So, I mean, the way they've done the SR balancing with the SSRs is very, very comforting to me because it's not a power creep. Okay, it's almost it feels like how do I put this? It feels like if you are smart with how you want to build your teams and you're creative enough, you can catch people off guard. 100%.
Oh yeah,
100%. Yeah. Especially Wills, because Wills will disrespect rare units and SR units. I know because I'm speaking from experience. Okay, you can catch them so off guard. Like you can throw in, like a number 41 with an R77 and then RC77 with plus, a Victor into a Gray, and you're like, I will sit down and I'm go, what the fuck is this guy trying to do? Because I don't know what the units do, right? And then I'll just see the highest rarity DPS there, and I'll just ban that, and I'll be like, all right, let's go. And then I get clapped by you, and I'm like, oh, bruh, this feels so bad.
Now you gotta adapt the strategy. Be like, I'm gonna get some with that.
Viper is a menace.
Oh yeah,
holy shit, bro! Like you put Linglo, what's that? Linglo Sanya, Tiamat, and then you pick a Viper along with that. You're like, do I ban the Viper or do I ban the Tiamat? Both ways, I'm still screwed. Because I can't deal with the Viper. That Viper is just gonna constantly counterattack, strip my stuff, put attack down, put speed down on me non-stop because he's gonna get topped up by Linglo Sanya. Or do I deal with Tiamat that's just gonna go into Dragon Form and nuke me anyway? Like, which route do I go? And don't even talk to me about them being on Bloodbath. Everything is on Bloodbath. Good luck. Holy shit.
Yeah, Bloodbath is like I keep, because a lot of players ask me that, they're like, speed meta cleave, is it gonna ever get counter? Dude, I'm telling you guys, I've played RTA at like the end game standard. A lot of your cleave DPSs were having a tough time, which is why this beta was so important, because they implemented a lot of the things that DPS is really needed. And even made like Messiah, that he got that 20% extra true damage. Like that was so important for him because he was not able to cleave at all, let alone now remotely. You still got to deal with Bloodbath as is, but it's like he wasn't even able to cleave at all against a lot of the stuff that we had in the last tournaments. The last tournaments, it was literally Viper, Ling Lao, Biotin. You had the Veronica, like this, obviously pre-adjustment Veronica. So Veronica was just nuts because let me just steal all your buffs and guaranteed to do it. And then I'm going to give it to my whole party. So I think the craziest match I seen was a Veronica stealing all the buffs from her Biotin and then resurrecting her entire team. She was the last character up. And she literally stole Biotin's Underworld Flower, resurrected her whole team, and just like steamrolled the other side. And I was like, yeah, dog, that's way too OP. You can steal unique buffs like that.
I remember seeing that. I was like, why is there so many revival units in this game? And I realized, oh no, it's not that. It's that Veronica stole a buff that is unique to Beyonce. And I was like, wait, you can steal unique buffs? I've never heard of that before. And
So I'm glad you said that. I've never heard of that. In any game I've ever played, no one is like ever been able to steal unique buffs.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Can you imagine in this, like, for example, you stealing Heights buff? All of a sudden, my Leora is going to have, 50 underworld stacks with like a plus 200% attack, and I'm just going to nuke you. Like, that doesn't make sense. It's meant for Hyde.
Yeah, so a lot of people were upset with the adjustment that she got, which it took her from the 100% to 80, and I think it was like 50% on the actual share for all the buffs. But I was like, oh, don't you feel like that was a bit much? And I'm like, dog, let's say you had, let's say, okay, you're running Tiamat, so there's like shield, you got heal over time. Let's say you got immunity, you're running a Ling Lao or something. You have the all-powerful protection, right? Like Veronica could steal all of that. Like I'm like, even all powerful protection that's coming from the Sania, that's got reduced to 2 stacks. That was 3 stacks in the last beta.
Jesus.
So
Jesus.
Like you thought Tiamat's actually like, and for her to still be as good as she is, this is like, granted, Amber is still a thing, but this is still a fairly watered down version of her, because you would do like the Sania Tiamat combo, but now you have 3 stacks, which means you get 60% more HP, not 40. So now Tiamat was just like, I was like, dude, like this unit is insane. So like you could do that literally though with anyone. So like Sania paired up with a lot of characters. They even had to increase her cooldowns because she was so oppressive even with her resurrect. She was like I mean, honestly, even a better resurrector than Biotin, how often she could resurrect. So it was like, oh, you got rid of somebody, 2-turn cooldown, they're back up. You know, and if they're rotating fast enough, that 2 turns goes like this. You know?
Yeah, I know, so because I've gone through it so many times. Because I'm like, I got rid of the Viper. Fuck yeah, I got rid of the Viper. Next minute,
she's like, nope.
Why is this Viper back to full health, bro? What? I just got rid of this guy.
Yeah,
and I can't get rid of him now because everything's on cooldown. And then I try to hit him to stun him with the Hell Kit, and then he counterattacks, silences me, and I'm like, I guess I don't play the game. Cool.
I think that that's the thing that makes the game so funny, though, is that there's a lot of different options that you have to make it to where that person does not get to play the game. Like, if you know what you're doing, you really could set up so many different scenarios where you don't get to play. And it's in different ways.
Dude, twin trick with Victor. Kill me.
Yeah.
Just kill me. Just kill. I still cannot believe I lost the match because I had no choice. I had to ban his fastest unit. I knew what it was, right? I knew his Lily was slow, right? So I banned his fastest unit because if that went, which was a Marvel, I would have lost the entire game straight away, right?
Yeah.
At least if I ban that, I still have a chance, to push off this thing and things like that. And then all of a sudden, I just see here should twin trick into the Victor. And then the Victor nukes one of my units. She goes, she S1s into the Tiamat. Victor goes along with it to assist, and then my Tiamat disappears. I'm like, dude, that's 2 units, my guy. Huh? Huh?
I think, like, and you know what's funny is actually the players that actually, I would say, shine light on Victor was actually the CN community. So I had put up a video like talking about it. I was like, dude, Victor's so OP, like he's so great. And everybody was like, no, he's trash. Like, there's no way he's that good. And I'm like, guys, I'm telling you right now, Victor is going to be a problem if you let him through. Like, you need to be aware of what he does. And so it's funny because in this beta, a lot of players were saying that. They're like, dude, I just got wrecked by a Victor. Like, even when you're looking at some of the PvE content, Victor's up there. Like, he's one of the top damagers in the game. Like, he's really, really strong,
his
but he's so self-sufficient. Yeah.
Because I was playing a team where I can't... His whole gimmick is his damage is off his lost HP. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to touch the bastard. I'm just going to S1. Alright, hit me. Guy loses 40% HP naturally and then goes Victor. And I'm like, wait a minute, bro. I just died. I did everything to protect myself and I still died. And defense buff too. And then Lily goes twin attack. And then Victor goes. And I was like, okay, I guess I lose this game. Whatever.
That's literally what I was telling everybody. I was like, hey man, I was like, it's bagpipe by him. Like, it's like, it's a completely different game when you see it happen. But I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, I guess coming to a closing, man. With everything that you've experienced, like, for the release, what would you rate this game as it is right now?
I think the game is already very good, but from what it is, I'm not talking just because of the PvP. I'm not trying to be biased here. I'm talking about the experience when I played the game. Like I said from the start, if you remember part 1, I said looking at it from videos and YouTube versus playing it in real life is completely different experience.
Yeah,
it feels next gen. When you watch it, it feels like another Hoyo copycat kind of thing, HSR copycat.
Yeah,
but when you play it, you're like, nope. It may feel like it, but it does feel damn good. Now that's number 1. Number 2, the way they have structured, your progression, right? It's not intuitive if you're brand new to gachas, but if you're not brand new to gachas, you somewhat know what to do, but you just have to realize that people that have played the beta knows the right routes to go. And it's basically literally an Easter egg in the game. If you hit challenge, you can see that they have put it in importance already. They have really ranked it in importance. Just follow that. Okay? Don't try to be smarter than the system. because the system is already worked out. That's number 2. Number 3, the only thing that I don't like is the running around the sandbox open world. That's a bit much. I'm like,
I got to ask you about that.
I'm like, okay, that is probably one of my most hated content about the game, because it's not an open world game to begin with, but it's trying to give you that little sandboxy feel of an MMO. So if they can get rid of that entirely from the story, or I can just power through that, perfect. I will do it. Okay, but I like the little open world sandboxy thing for streaming, especially when you're doing the tower. That is fun.
Oh yeah,
That's fun.
the Ember track. Yeah.
Doing it on the Amber track is fun. Doing it in the story is not, because I don't watch the story. I'm sorry, Jack. I don't watch the story. That's not me. Okay, we'll find some lore guy that's gonna go through all of it, and I'm gonna just watch it on YouTube anyway. Or if you want, brand new idea, create a whole cutscene thing on your actual Etheria restart channel. I'll watch that any time of the day. But if I'm trying to progress, I'm trying to play RTA, I'm trying to enter your EWS, I'm not watching that shit, bro. Like, get that out of my face. Okay?
That's fair.
So that's the only problem I have with it. Besides that, the Ember track's fun. The Ethernet rally fixed Karuru, and we're good.
Yeah,
dude, he's overtuned. I'm not lying, bro.
No, he's very overtuned.
I use the gray and I fucking defense break all the little fucking jellyfish, and I'm like, okay, my Messiah's gonna clean up, and there's still 3/4 health. I'm like, wait, hold the fucking phone here, I can't kill it. And he's just gonna explode on me. Anyway, that's a whole spiel. Shells, they were fun. The bosses are very unique. I like that. And they have a little story behind it. So I think there will be laws behind those bosses, those green pursuits. Threshold, it's just your basic gear farming, right? I don't have to talk much about that. RTA, well done, to be honest, except for the fact that, there was no pre-bans and there was no third pick protection. That's fine, okay? But in the real game, at least have that. Have the pre-ban. Third pick protection not there, that's okay, we can still survive. Okay?
Yeah,
pre-ban is very important, right? So besides that, there's not really much else I can really complain about, right? Except for, very, very minor stuff that, pisses me off. That's it.
Yeah.
So
everybody has those things. Like,
so
what's funny is like
little bit, right? Like Karuru, that's
one.
That's one.
That's what I was like, dude, it's like that. And you know what's funny? One thing I wish that we did get, and that's actually what I'm actually like pushing for from Dislight, was how our PvP gear was separated from our PvE gear. Like we had like the separate presets. So like
I don't
all the gear builds.
I don't think we need it.
I don't think we necessarily need it, but it would be a nice thing to just have for the ease for those that are like kind of all over the place. It just kind of gives you a little bit more structure. Because it's like if I have my things separated here.
If anything, the presets that they already have can be fine-tuned a lot better.
Yeah, right? I can see that.
If they fix that, I think that's okay. So for example, let's say maybe I don't know if this is a good idea. If you go onto Grey, right? Let's say you create a whole bunch of presets, but let's say you go onto Grey and you have already presets for Grey, that goes to the top immediately already. So all right, that's Grey stuff, right? Let's just put it straight back in. Maybe they can do something like that, right? Because I hate scrolling like this. And I'm, all right, where's Grey? Because I'm already at Grey, right? Maybe just make it jump to the top straight away, and then all right, re-click, done, right?
Yeah.
So because you can create like 3 different Grey sets, like you can go Grey for Doki, Grey for Terra, Grey PvP, and then if you go to Grey, all of them just jumps to the top of the preset bar, and then you can just all right, this one. I think that will work.
Yeah, that would.
I think that's enough. That's enough.
That's actually better. That's actually better.
And then having a PvE set, a PvP set, and having them separate. Like leave that to leave. I don't think we need that.
Leave Lilith with Lilith.
Yeah. I didn't want to call people out, but we are here.
No, it's fair. Here we are. I think that's great though, because I think that's another important thing. letting Etheria be Etheria. I think that's one of the things I feel like we've watched a lot of other games try to be other games in every regard, that they don't really have a thing that identifies them as their own IP or own project. And that ends up kind of taking away from those that end up really leaning into that game because they like that game for whatever reasons that they like that game, you know? So yeah, man, I like, listen, this has been an absolute blast. We're definitely going to be doing this more often, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, 100%, man. I appreciate you for doing this, having me on. This has been, like I said, this has been like probably one of the most anticipated podcasts that I've wanted to do. Just because a lot of things have been like mainly surface level for the most part. And really not so much about PvP, but this is like the first podcast where I've really been able to sit and talk with somebody about PvP. And that's always a blast, man. So yeah, I definitely appreciate it very much so.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, make sure if you're from my channel, if you didn't hit the subscribe button in the beginning, we're gonna have problems. I don't know. like we need to. Like I don't think there's a no brainer here. The guy knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm telling you guys, you're in really, really good hands when it comes down to really well thought out content, especially when it comes down to the competitive nature of these types of games. So yeah, man, definitely make sure you guys subscribe, man.
Awesome. All right, so thank you all for watching this podcast between Zox and I. Make sure you subscribe to both our channels if you want more of this kind of content. We are definitely planning to do more and maybe bringing on more guests anyway. And so with that, thank you, Zox, once again, and
yes, sir.
We'll catch you guys next time.
All right, guys, peace.